Hello everyone, I am Andrea and I will be discussing C command in syntax. C command in syntax was introduced by Tanya Reinhardt in 1976 as a key component of her theory of anaphora. The term is short for constituent command. In introduction, a node in a parse tree C commands its sister node and all of its sister's descendants. In this framework, C command plays a central role in defining and constraining operations such as syntactic movement, binding, and scope. What is C command in syntax? As you can see, C command is a very abstract relationship between nodes on a tree. It is commonly used in syntax and sometimes in other areas as well. Imagine entities A, B, and C. Suppose A stands in some asymmetrical relationship with B and C. For instance, A is composed of B and C, but A dominates B and C. B does not dominate C. C does not dominate B. Neither B nor C dominates A. As you can see, C command is a very abstract relationship between nodes on a tree. In branching, A is a node that branches into B and C. A is branching node. B immediately dominates nothing else but D. B does not branch. B is not a branching node, meaning A and B symmetrically C command one another. A does not symmetrically C command D. Any node A can command node B, no matter how many layers of structure is there. The first branching node that dominates A also dominates B. A does not dominate B and B does not dominate A. There are other definitions of C command. There are also other notions that relate to C command such as M command, but the main idea is to work out the definition carefully in the same way we present syntax. For example, reflexive, herself, himself, or themselves, and reciprocals, each other, are always C commanded by their antecedent. For example, the boys pinch each other. The boys is our noun praise, pinch is the verb praise, and each other is our noun praise. In summary, C command is the most important of the structural relations, the one we call C command. Although C command takes a little getting used to, it is actually the most useful of all the relations. In the next chapter, we'll look at the phenomenon of binding, which makes explicit reference to the C command relation. C command is defined intuitively and more formally. And with formal C command, node A C commands node B. If every tree node dominating A, it also dominates B and neither A nor B dominates the other.
Good morning, everyone. So before I start with our discussions, I would like to take this opportunity to sing a short song entitled The Climb by Miley Cyrus. And this is for those students like me who are about to give up on their dreams because of the difficulties and struggles that we are facing right now. So this song will tell us that it isn't just about what you achieve in life, but it is as important to consider the journey that you have made to get there and to learn and appreciate the experiences that you have been through on the way. We can compare this battle of achieving your dream in life to climbing a mountain. I can almost see it, the dream I'm dreaming, but there's a voice inside my head saying you'll never reach it. Every step I'm taking, every move I make feels lost with no direction. My faith is shaken, but I gotta keep trying. Gotta keep my head held high. There's always gonna be another mountain. I'm always gonna wanna make it new. Always gonna be enough, feel better. Sometimes I'm gonna have to lose. And about how fast I get there. And about what's the wait on the other side. It's the climb. Let me leave you with this quote. Life is a climb, but the view is great. This song will make us become aware that we will be happy once we have achieved our dreams and goals. But looking at the journey that has got you there makes you appreciate it more. Thank you for listening. Let's proceed on our discussions. And for today's discussion, we also have grammatical relations. The topics that we are about to discuss today are subject preliminary, direct object, object of preposition, direct object preliminary, and direct object and obliques. In linguistics, grammatical relations, also called grammatical functions, grammatical rules, or syntactic functions. These are functional relationships between constituents in a clause. Grammatical relations are things like subject, object, and direct object. Those are things we call grammatical relations. Now, most people would define grammatical relationships as things like so let's take the subject for example. The subject is the doer of the sentence, or the subject is the topic of the sentence, or the subject is about the thing that the sentence is about. But these are all problematic once you probe a little bit deeper. So generative grammarians have issued these kinds of semantic notions for defining grammatical relations and instead use properly structural relationship to define grammatical relations. So using the terms dominate, particularly the term dominate, and also proceed, we can define things like subject, object, and direct object in ways that purely refer to the tree and don't refer to semantic notions. In English, the subject is always the NP or CP that appears before the verb or auxiliary. In other words, the subject is the part of a sentence or clause that commonly indicates what it is about or who or what performs the action. Below are some examples. In the first example, we have the puppy licked the kitten's face. The subject is typically a noun, so the puppy here is the noun. We also have it is raining, so it is a pronoun and acts just like any other noun. The word it can be a subject or dummy subject in sentences about times, dates, and the weather, such as it's raining, and in certain idioms it's okay. If you can still remember, the subject pronouns are I, you, he, she, it, we, they, who, and whoever. Notice that the definition of subject is not semantic one. It is not necessarily the doer of the action. Let's take a look at the letter C and letter G examples. So Fred feels fine. So Fred here is the subject. Fred is not deliberately feeling fine. In letter G, the kitten is the one being licked. So the kitten was licked, the kitten is the subject. So the kitten is the one being licked, not the licker. And for the last example, we have letter E. The Bill's breath smells of Onion's brother's urine. The words being highlighted here is what we call a noun phrase. Different semantic types of noun phrase appears to be allowed to function as the subject. There are straightforward structural definition of the subject. Next, we have subject preliminary, NP or CP, daughter of TP. The subject is a grammatical term used to describe the nouns, pronouns, and noun phrases that occur before the verb in a sentence, just like some examples that I have shown to you from the previous slides. So let us consider what relationship we're talking about and how we would define them structurally. So for example, the subject of the sentence is either the noun phrase or a CP, daughter of TP. That's the notion of subject. So by daughter, of course, we mean immediate domination. So what the TP immediately dominates, that's either an NP or a CP, daughter of TP. That's the subject. We also have direct object. Direct object is little trickier. Direct object depends upon what kind of verb you have. So our definition here says that of verbs of particular type, usually transitive verb or ditransitive verbs that have a second prepositional phrase. The noun phrase that are CP, that's the daughter of the verb phrase, is the direct object. It gets more complicated when you have verbs that have two noun phrases that follow the verb, and in the case that it's the second NP or CP. So here we have to refer the precedence as well as domination. Here are some examples of direct object. In a sentence, the direct object is the noun or noun phrase that's receiving the action of the verb. The basic construction works like this: subject plus verb plus who or what. For example, in the first sentence, we have Susan kissed the clown's nose. Here, the subject is Susan and the verb is kiss. What did Susan kiss? The clown's nose. Let's walk through a few more direct object examples. Next, we have Cedric dance a jolly jig. Here, the subject is Cedric and the verb is dance, and jolly jig is the direct object. And the last one, we have Dale said that the lawn was overgrown. Dale is the subject and the said is the verb. And words being highlighted here is the direct object or the topic being talked about. To be more specific, direct objects follow transitive verbs. A transitive verb is simply an action verb. Action verbs can be followed by a number of different phrases. Transitive verbs, however, can only be followed by direct object as they need to act upon something or someone. The direct object can be a singular noun or noun phrase, or a group of words that act as a noun together. Object of preposition, NP daughter of PP. A preposition is any word that can be used to introduce a prepositional phrase. Prepositional phrases are phrases that are used as modifiers of nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. For example, the sentence, "She is a friend of mine," uses the prepositional phrase of mine to modify the noun friend. The prepositional phrase tells us more about the friend. As another example, the sentence, "We went to Jamaica during the summer," uses two prepositional phrases, which is to Jamaica and during the summer. This is to modify the verb went. These prepositional phrases say where and when we went. The object of a preposition is a noun, or a word or phrase acting as a noun, that works with a preposition to form a prepositional phrase. The object is being affected or referenced by the preposition. An object of a preposition follows the preposition itself, and the preposition acts as the bridge between the object and whatever part of speech the prepositional phrase is modifying. To see this definition at work, consider the following three. The first three, we have Les kissed Paula on Tuesday. So the NP, which is Les, is the daughter of TP and is thus the subject. The NP, which is Paula, is a daughter of VP headed by the transitive verb kiss. So Paula is the direct object. Tuesday is the NP daughter of a PP and thus the object of a preposition. In addition to direct objects, when you have a detransitive verb like give or put, you also have an indirect object. Indirect objects in English come of several types in terms of the types of an arguments they take. The two most common types are the direct object, which we preliminarily defined from the previous slides. The indirect object in English shows up in two places. It can be the PP that follows the direct object. It can also be the first NP after the verb when the verb takes two NPs. Here are the example. Notice that the direct object in the second of the two NPs roughly the reverse of the three in the first example. We also have indirect object, preliminary. Obliques. In many languages, such as Finnish, obliques aren't marked with prepositions. Instead, they get special suffixes that mark them as oblique. So, obliqueness is not necessarily defined by being a preposition. That is just a convenient definition for now. Notice that obliques can structurally show up in the same position as indirect objects. So let us compare these two trees here. So the difference between the two is in whether the PP is part of the argument structure of the verb or not. That would be all. I hope you learned something and thank you for listening.